What are the dangers of being very attractive slash beautiful? If you're really attractive and also quiet, people think you're snobby. Also, you get unwanted comments from creeps a lot. Aloof comes up sometimes, but only after getting to know them. Yes. Friendships falling apart when their partner is attracted to you. Friendships falling apart when you're genuinely trying to be friends with someone of the opposite sex and they end up falling in love with you. How much I feel this one. I lost all my male childhood friends because at some point all of them ended up falling for me and made everything uncomfortable or left after being rejected. Especially because, well, everyone knew I had a boyfriend anyway, now fiancé. So yeah, a very solid, healthy relationship. No one else had a chance. Now I began to befriend a really cool guy and just the other day he told me he needs a girlfriend like me in a pretty evident flirty tone. I joked about my fiancé finding the limited edition to make sure he knows I have a partner. He tried to hide his disappointment, but I still saw a bit of it on his face after that. I find it so frustrating. I just want a bunch of friends to celebrate the holidays with and prepare them special meals and surprise birthday parties and plan trips and recommend them songs or movies and send them memes. Not having to deal with unwanted attraction towards me. I'm the guy that fell hard for my best friend, but I love them so much platonically as well that nothing has really changed after my confession was unreciprocated. I'm still just so happy to have them as a friend and I wouldn't trade our time together for anything. People will often mistake friendliness for flirting. I work at a hotel front desk, and the other night a man came down to ask for something and said, "Every time I passed through here, someone else was hitting on you. Do you deal with that all the time?" Yes, and it's obnoxious. That man was also hitting on you. That girl at a bar, https://youtube b/mao_7h47q. Sketch from SNL is more real than we'd want to believe. Being tasked with killing the Prime Minister of Malaysia. The question was for people who are very attractive, not for people who are really ridiculously good looking. Not knowing if you're actually funny, or well spoken, or talented, or charismatic. This reminds me of the episode of 30 Rock with John Hamm. Think it's called The Bubble. God, I love that episode. That part where Liz is choking and he wants to shake it loose, but it doesn't work. So instead he wants to find chopsticks to jam it down her throat to dislodge it, and she just team liches herself. https://www.youtube.com/watch v=uaqoxollvt0. Oh man, I forgot he was a doctor. That's kind of terrifying. Some overweight 12-year-old kid using your picture as his profile and claiming to be you. Or some guy in his 40s using a 12-year-old pic as his profile pic to pick up kids. Literally actually happened to me. The way I found out was a cousin-in-law. New family. Kept calling me Xavier saying we were friends on Facebook. Finally I asked him why he kept calling me that and told him I didn't know him. So he explained. Then I showed him my school ID and my Facebook profile to prove I was me. Lol, pretty weird. Got a friend of mine to figure out the guy's real name and I guess he was using a computer at the local library. Anyway, I passed this info on to my father and from there IDK what happened. Lol. Hopefully this man was beaten to death in the library parking lot by my dad and uncles. Lol. Edit. To clarify, I was attempting to lighten the mood at the end of this little story with some outlandish wild deaths. Lol, nobody was murdered, nor did I wish murder on this fucking creep pretending to be me to pick up kids. Lol, jeez. Well, you escalated that one pretty fast. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. People think you are flirting if you are being anything other than nasty to them. Then if you are nasty, you are a bitch/asshole. No in between. When I worked in a male-dominated field, I stopped wearing makeup because the more put together I looked, the harder it was to get them to do anything. Just wearing basic eyeliner and mascara would make such a difference. If I asked nicely, I would basically get ignored, and if I told them what needed to be done firmly and politely, the guys would run to management with my attitude problem. Literally had a helper not want to work and called management because I pointed and said the ladder is over there by the house the wrong way. I guess I showed validity. Hey you called. I use teehee a lot to diffuse confrontational situations where I just want to get S done or my point across without getting into a dramatic debate. Regardless of gender, I think some people would get obsessed with you to the point they'll harm other people to just get your attention or themselves. If you become unattractive for any reason, you may find it difficult to reconcile that you are no longer attractive. Examples: car wreck, injury, aging, disease, becoming obese. I'm sure there are more. If you're used to being attractive and you identify as such, consciously or subconsciously, it can be really hard to come to terms with a change in that. Becoming a mum, getting old, hormones and age ruining my skin and hair. At least I can have a conversation with a man now without them thinking I'm hitting on them. Same. It's somewhat of a relief to become invisible to men as a middle-aged woman with them on board. But it stings a little, too. I truly don't want to get hit on. But it is a constant reminder that the way I look has changed. Yup, right there with you. When people who are your friends take every chance they can to criticize your appearance or anything else, whatever little crumb of shade they can use to humble you. Yep, I have a few flaws. Not major ones. But my housemate keeps commenting on my fat, even though I'm quite low body fat percentage. And the fact that my teeth aren't completely straight. Not once have I received a compliment from him about how I work very hard to keep myself healthy and hygienic. Same thing has happened to me with past friends. People who do this are just insecure about themselves. It requires confidence and courage to compliment others. They just don't have it. People want to socialize with you when you're ugly and have friends. You know they like you for who you are. Beautiful people don't know who to trust. Just like being rich. Everyone harbors a secret hatred for the prettiest girl in the room, Annie DeFranco. I could see that being true, tbh. All the guys want you and will feel slighted after you reject them. All the girls will be jealous of you and resent you for having it easier than them. Whoever you date is gonna feel insecure about the situation to a certain extent, because when you're that attractive, you can easily replace them. It probably sucks behind closed doors, because people want you strictly for what you look like, which in reality has nothing to do with who you are as a person. Who can you even trust? I hate meeting friends' husbands and they look at me deeply and smile. I try to be jovial, but stay far away. I had a friend's boyfriend come to my house a week after he picked her up once. I was on the phone with her when he showed up. I'm not very beautiful probably, as I'm older now, 46. But I'm a Japanese woman in the UK and a lot of people seem to maybe fetishize this. I have no idea why, and it irks me a little. I hate that I sometimes am not taken seriously, or just seen as an unintelligent airhead. In Japan I suppose I was considered beautiful when I was younger, not now. I'm old and ugly, and there was an expectation often voiced of why even bother with uni. Because you are pretty enough for a very rich husband and can become a trophy wife. This made me mad and is one part of the reason why I leave to live in the UK. Also so much groping, but this affects many young women in Japan, unfortunately, and accusations always of flirting and feeling that you may be arrogant. For example, to even complete this answer, but I don't personally feel beautiful. I just have been told this by others many times in my youth. But yes, I add this presumption that you're arrogant or vain also. I'm glad to no longer be beautiful, but just average looking / ugly. Sometimes women think you are going to steal their husband when you have zero interest in this. Sometimes women think you are going to steal their husband when you have zero interest in this. When I first met my BFF I rather got this vibe from her, but was completely confused because she's objectively a total smokershow, even for an area with a high concentration of really attractive people. Turns out, she was pretty troubled at the time and had low self-esteem. She did a lot of therapy and is much better now. Also she's absolutely hilarious and very talented in her profession. Anyone who underestimates her does so at their own peril. I recently watched a show on Amazon called Tokyo Girl, and what you've talked about here about how women are treated and perceived in Japan was captured in that to an extent. There is one scene where the main character, who is still gorgeous, but now a successful woman in her 30s who dresses well, is left totally alone at a matchmaking service group date. She's told by the matchmaker that if she wants to get married she has to dress down, not talk about her career, and lower her standards. Because all the men are looking for youthfulness before any other quality. What was interesting to me was that she was still very beautiful, as were the other women she befriended, from her boss to her social circle. But once she was past a certain age her beauty became invisible. I think that happens in a lot of societies, but maybe it's emphasized more in Japan that women's value is tied to their youth. Men assume you get it on all the time, so they play it cool by being mean, which just makes it seem like most men are mean. Haha, you look like you're being beaten with an ugly stick. Date me. Annoyed why she rejected me. All the older men at bars think you're into them, but really you're just being polite. I quit working at and going to nightclubs at age 30 for this exact reason. I'm a guy, and I would see these 40 to 60-year-old guys come in, lonely and often freshly divorced. They'd try to hit on the young women, and I swore to never be like those creeps. You can't pick your nose in public anymore with all the people staring at your attractive/beautiful face. Lol. I was told I'm not the type of a girl someone dates because they've been with too many other guys. When I was a virgin, another guy tried to hook up with me, kept calling me beautiful. I kept saying no. I'm only looking for long-term/a relationship. He said something like, "What a waste. You're made for sex," saying it like a compliment. His tone was flirty. But I'll never forget that it's hard to find someone to want more than to F me as some trophy girl. Ugh, that is so gross. What a dick. I had an uncle, not blood related but still an uncle, say to me that if he was 20 years younger he'd make my boyfriend redundant. Blurg. This seems like a much more serious comment than just blurg. I'm like worried. Stalkers. Men and women touching you for no reason, including hair and face. People thinking you have nothing to offer but your looks lousy. Being called a whore, etc. People diminish your problems. They think because you're beautiful everything is easier for you. I've had friends laugh and say I have pretty people problems even in situations where I've been threatened and harassed. The worst part about it all is I don't feel like I'm actually that attractive. My self-confidence is so low, and if I talk about it, I sound like I'm crying for attention. So I just keep to myself. As far as I remember, a lot of attractive people have low confidence in their looks. Counterintuitively, it's psychological. It's normal. So try to give yourself a break. Cut off toxic people. They might think you're too full of yourself, but their opinions mean F all. Usually, most people have low confidence in their looks, and people seldom see themselves in the mirror the way you see them. Unwanted attention. Objectification. People assume you're unintelligent. You aren't taken seriously. Men get very nervous around me, which in turn makes me nervous. My interactions with a lot of men in general is pretty negative. You get snide comments from other women. It's often assumed you're just a pretty girl with zero problems. This, especially the last part, you basically get dehumanized. So ugly people are dehumanized in the form of being looked down upon. And attractive people are also dehumanized in the form of assumptions. Interesting. And meanwhile those goddamn bland averages float on without a care in the world. It's a fives world. Everybody else is just living in it. Not being appreciated for who you are as a person and your opinions being discounted. Judgment from others. Jealousy from others. Stereotypes of being dumb, mean, etc. Not being able to trust other people's intentions with you, etc. When I was a hot 20-something hostess I had the dual problem of men hitting on me non-stop paired with mostly older women doing and saying the weirdest and meanest, most nonsensical s out of jealousy. Like, just pure, unfiltered, white hot hatred. They would have killed me if they could. A little later, I saw it happen secondhand, and it validated all of my first-hand experiences. I was older and worked at a different place. I worked with this gorgeous, tall Asian girl. I was standing next to her rolling silverware and this boomer lady walked by her and was staring straight at my coworker like she wanted to kill her. Locked into her, not even trying to hide it. My coworker was looking down and didn't see it, but I made sure to shoot darts back at that woman. It's known that attractive women deal with harassment from men. This kind of behavior from other women is one of the aspects of being an attractive young lady that not many people talk about. Now that I'm an older woman, I make sure to check myself if I feel any irrational jealousy creep in, and remain an ally rather than an enemy to young women. I had my moment in the sun. Now let someone else have it. Other people's manipulations on you just to keep you for themselves. If I'm nice to anyone, they assume I'm hitting on them. Yes, and then if you decide to be less friendly, to not have this reaction, then you are labeled as being arrogant or full of yourself for not being so friendly. You cannot win. People seem to think being attracted to a beautiful person entitles them to make ridiculous demands on that person's time, attention, and body. It's wrong to covet a human being in that way. I recently had this happen to me. I asked somebody who I assumed was my friend a question relating to car batteries. I had surgery on my breast to remove cancer along with a breast reduction, which put me out of commission, so I wasn't able to do much. So he offered to pick up a new battery for me. I told him I would give him the money, but he said, "Don't worry about it," and that he would bring it over after work. I'm thinking, wow, what a nice and generous person. A little later that evening, this so-called nice man messaged me asking if he could go down on me when he brought over the battery. I was so disgusted and told him never mind, and that I would no longer need his help. Lots of men bothering you in the grocery store, asking you which of these cereals do you eat, what kind of meat are you getting, do you have a boyfriend, why won't you go out with me, and being told to smile. I'm not very attractive or beautiful because there are more good looking ladies out there, but I attract lots of creepy people. When I was a teenager, my older sister told me that I'm a pedophile magnet and I cried a lot. It doesn't last. The actual danger in that is that you might find your spouse only married you for your looks and never actually liked you. I know at least 2 of these. They were dumped in their mid-40s by their shallow husbands for younger women. A friend of mine always needed to want around with protection in a sense she could never be alone in public. She is probably the most beautiful person I've ever seen, and she spends so much time to cover up and avoid going outside. Biggest issue is dating and dealing with unwanted people. At worst, some very violent stalkers. I don't consider myself an overwhelmingly beautiful person, but something about me attracts men in hordes. I'm pretty, but not enough to warrant the attention that I get. I'd go to the grocery store after work as a vet tech, covered in blood and hair, looking very tired, and have people trying to pick me up at the grocery store. I had to start wearing a fake engagement ring to work, so clients would quit hitting on me. I've quit trying on several hobbies because men always take me being nice for flirting, and then it blows up when they try to take me home drunk, because what's the big deal about drinking with people consider your friends? And then other people have to intervene because I'm telling them no and they won't listen. It sucks. I've quit wearing makeup and wear pretty unflattering clothing unless I'm out with my BF because I'm sick of it. People being jealous of you and would love to set your house on fire. Good summation TBH. Oh, and God forbid you have other talents or shine in other ways too.